Today, class, we're going to be working on percents and decimals. I have a couple of sentences here to describe how to change decimals to percentages and percents to decimals. Let's go through that. So to write a decimal as a percent, you're going to move the decimal point 2 places to the right and write a percent sign. What you're doing mathematically when you have this problem is basically you are multiplying that decimal by 100. So for example, if I have the decimal 0.35, which we know represents 35 hundredths, if I want to change it to a percent, I'm going to take that decimal point and I'm going to move it 2 places to the right. And think about this, if I multiply 35 hundredths times 100, that's going to end up being 35%. And that's as simple as it gets there. All we have to do is change a decimal to a percent and move the decimal point 2 places to the right and add the percent sign. Now, on the flip side of that, to write a percent as a decimal, we're going to move the decimal point 2 places to the left and then remove the percent sign. So at that point, what you're doing mathematically is you're dividing by 100. Let's take this decimal, or take this percentage. Let's take 49%. Now, if I'm going to change that to a decimal, I'm going to remove that percent sign, and I'm going to move that decimal 2 places to the left. So I get the decimal of 49 hundredths. 49% becomes 49 hundredths. And that's all and that's as easy as this lesson gets. Let's go to some examples. Why don't you stop the video, and after that first little lesson, stop the video now, and you try to write these decimals and whole numbers as percentages. Reminder, move the decimal point 2 places to the right and add the percent sign. Go ahead and stop the video and try and come back and check. All right, hopefully you've done these correctly. If I'm changing 62 hundredths to a percentage, move that decimal point 2 places to the right, and you should have got 62%. If I'm moving 1, or changing 1 to a percent, okay, that decimal right now is after the 1, right? So if I move it 2 places, we have to fill in here with zeros. So as a percentage, it's 100%. And last but not least, we have 2 3/10 as a percent. Okay. Just as we did in that 1, you have to move it 2 places to the right. So, and we're going to have to add an extra 0. So that becomes 230%. Hopefully you did well with that. Now let's work on changing percents to decimals. Okay, once again, I'm going to have you stop the video here in a second, and you try these problems. I want to remind you we're dividing by 100, which means we're moving our decimal point 2 places to the left. Give it a try. Okay, so for 75%, let's hope that you got the correct answer. The decimal, remember, is at the end of the whole number right now, so we move it 2 places to the left, which is going to give you 75 hundredths. Okay, once again, 2 places. Boom, boom, and there we have it. Okay, 4/10%. So if I'm going to change 4/10 to a percentage, we're going to move it 2 places to the left again. So that means we're going to have to add some zeros here. And you should get an answer of 4 thousandths. Notice we're always dropping the percent sign here. We're changing our percent to a decimal. And last but not least, 168%, we change to a decimal, 2 places to the left again, and we should have 1 68 hundredths. All right, now, to write a fraction as a percent. Okay. Previous lessons, we had fractions as percentages, but the denominators always went into 100 evenly. So those are pretty easy. We set up an equivalent ratio and where the denominator was 100, and we take that number that's over 100 then and write it as a percent. Now, sometimes that denominator doesn't go into 100 evenly. So we have to divide. So if we take 3/8, we're going to divide 3 divided by 8. Now we're going to get a decimal answer here. And then as we have previously done, we're going to have to change that decimal to a percentage. So does 8 go into 3? No. Okay, so here's where we add our decimal. Don't forget to take it out. And we annex a 0 inside the division sign. So 8 goes into 30 3 times at 24. Subtract 3 is 6, add a 0. 8 goes into 60 7 times at 56. Subtract 3 gives 4. See, our division continues. And 8 goes into 45 times. And our division finally terminates. So we get a decimal of 375 thousandths. Now, just as we did in the previous couple pages, we have to change our decimal to a percent. So we move it 2 places to the right, and that gives us 37 5/10%. You guys try this one. It's 5/3. So we're going to take 5, and we're going to divide by 3. 3 goes into 5 once. Subtract, we get 2. At that point, we have to add a decimal because we're at the end of the whole number. 3 goes into 20 then 6 times at 18. Add a 0. Okay. 3 goes into 26 times. We should start seeing that that decimal is going to keep repeating now, right? So we have 1 and 66 hundredths, and that 66, or that 6 would just keep repeating. So now I need to change this to a percentage. So once again, we're going to move that decimal point 2 places to the right, 1, 2, right? And the way I would write the answer for this problem is I would write 166 and 6/10 with bar notation over it, percentage. Notice I added an extra 6 there just to show it's repeating. Now some answers here, some people might have rounded this to 167%, or some people might have wrote 166 and 7/10%, where they round those. So any of these 3 answers would have probably been acceptable by most teachers in most learning situations that you would apply this to. Now, last thing we're going to work and study on this lesson is finding the percent of a number. Now, we used the percent proportion before when we had 20% of 85. If you like using the percent proportion method, you can definitely do that. Let me show you another way that you can calculate this though. If you have 20% of 85, so you know your percentage and you know your whole, what we're trying to find is that part again. Now, the word of means to multiply, right? So if I take 20% of 85, to do this calculation, we're not going to multiply by a percent. We're going to change our percent to a decimal. Okay. So 20% changed to a decimal is 0 2/10, right? We moved it 2 places to the left. And we're going to multiply that by 85. So I take 5 times 2 and I get 10, carry the 1. 5 times 0 is 0, plus that 1 we carried would be 1. Second row, don't forget to start with that, 0. 8 times 2 is 16. Once again, I'm going to carry a 1, so 8 times 0 is 0, plus that 1 is 1. We add those columns up and we get 170. But don't forget there's a decimal in our multiplication problem here. So we have one number to the right of the decimal point. We need to move the decimal back in 1 place to the left. So you get an answer of 17. So what that says is 17 is 20% of 85. Just another way that you can find part of a number. You guys give this one a try. This time it's 3 8/10%, there's a decimal there, of 45. 3 8/10% of 45. The way I would have set this problem up is I would have changed my percentage to a decimal. 0, oops, yep, I'm right here, and 38 thousandths, okay? 2 places to the left, don't forget. So I'm moving that decimal 2 places to the left. Go 1, 2, we gotta fill that in with a 0. And I like putting a 0 as a whole number when I know it's there. No questions. So now we need to multiply that by 45. So 5 times 8 is 40, carry the 4. 5 times 3 is 15, plus those 4 is 19, carry the 1. 5 times 0 is 0, plus 1. I'm not going to add that extra 5 times 0 in the end. Second row. We have 4 times 8 is 32, carry the 3 now. 4 times 3 is 12, plus that 3 is 15, carry 1. 4 times 0 is 0, plus 1. And we add up our totals. And our decimal point is 3 places to the, we have 3 numbers to the right of the decimal point, so we need to move our decimal point back in 3 places. And so we get that answer of 1 and 71 hundredths. You don't have to keep that extra 0 in the end because it does not change our number. Question.